Welcome back to Glamour Unfiltered, hosted by me, Josh Smith. And today we're joined by the queen of documentaries and presenter of Glow Up. It's Stacey Dooley!
Hey!
The Glow Up is back, BBC Three.
Yes.
One of the things that I love about it is this strong message about celebrating beauty in whatever form it comes in, and really bringing out what's from within and bringing that to the surface.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know from your perspective, in your own life, how has that been for you? And how has your relationship around beauty changed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I first took Glow Up, there was, I was sort of getting a bit of a hassle. You know, people saying, oh, you know, why are you fronting this makeup gig? You know, What are you? Are you a serious documentarian? Are you are you a journalist, or are you hosting reality shows? And I remember thinking, well, I don't really know why I can't do both. And I was quite curious, and I could see they were so talented. The kids were so talented. But my own relationship with makeup and beauty, I fucking haven't got a clue. Like, I can't even, I mean, it's a miracle I've got mascara on at the minute. I can't speak to Glamour, the state I've been in the last couple of weeks. But I hated the way that people were quite dismissive and sort of didn't recognise that makeup was really important to lots of people.
I think it also brings out a lot of our internal thoughts around beauty as well. For you personally, going through your life, what have been some turning points in that for you?
So I was 19, 20 when I did Blood Sweat. That was the first time I was on telly, and my skin was a mess, and you know, I wasn't ever done up. I remember people suddenly having an opinion, you know, people that write in newspaper columns or whatever will be they talk about your looks, they comment on, you know, the way you talk, So that's the first time I was like, oh God, there's loads of people looking at me and I don't know them, and there's strangers passing judgment. And then I think now I'm 33, I think I do like to feel the part, and I love it when I'm having a good skin day. If I'm hormonal, I'm like that. I think, but I think I recognise the importance of it. It's not, you know, right up there for me.
Because I think also we can all be judged by that idea of judging a book by its cover.
Yeah. Which
is so reductive, like you were saying, like the way you talk or the way that you act and those preconceived judgments that people place on people.
Yeah.
How has that been for you?
When I first started in telly, it was a very middle class, middle-aged, male-dominated space because I was doing documentaries and current affairs. And so the idea that I had the audacity to kind of come in and do things in a totally different way, I think shocked a few people. Interestingly, I remember very vividly, I was in the Beeb office and there was an older guy, I think I was wearing ripped jeans, whatever. And he was saying, he said something about what I was wearing, and I sort of bit back. And then I remember thinking, probably shouldn't have been so reactive. But actually, I think they sort of semi-respect you for it because they know not to go again.
I was thinking back to some of the press you've got in like the last year.
Yeah.
And without a shadow of a doubt, it's sexist. It's come through these prehistoric filters about what people feel like they want to digest as information. It used to make me so angry, and it makes me so angry when I've seen that treatment of you in the press, and I just don't know how you've managed it. So I wanted to see what your perspective on that's been and how you've dealt with it, because you've come out the other side and you seem stronger than ever. Misogyny
is still alive and kicking, and I think lots of people always liken me to like Ross Kemp or Louis Theroux. You know, they always say she's the female version of. It's like, well, I'm not really the female version of anyone. I'm just me, actually. And, you know, some people really like me and some people can't bear me and they don't understand why I'm on the telly. I'm sort of all right with that. I'm sort of past caring what strangers think of me. But I think as long as you know what you stand for and what your priorities are and what's important to you, you know, you'd be riddled with nerves and you'd never leave the house if you placed importance on what every single person said about you.
How have you learned to shut that off?
I wonder if, because of what I do for a living, that gives me real perspective. You know, I'm spending so much time in refugee camps, for example, or with women on the front line in Syria, or, you know, remarkable individuals in Latin America that have been through hell and face real struggles and are really suffering.
You, as I said at the top of the top of the introduction, you are the queen of documentaries. In my heart, a lot of people have a lot of love for you and the plights of different people that you've brought to the foreground, which is such an admirable thing. You got the MBE to prove it, honey. Yes, she's got that. But like for you, you put yourself in such, for me watching it, I'm like, oh my God, she's in such extreme danger. Like, what have you learned about your own mental and almost physical strength in those situations?
I'm actually a massive wimp. I think people assume that I'm really brave and I've got, I'm really courageous because I go to these quite hostile environments. But Josh, actually, I'm such a pussy so much of the time. Like, I am shitting myself when I'm on the front line or when I'm sort of not entirely sure how it's all going to play out. I do feel sick. I think to the pit of my stomach, I think, oh, Stacey, you voluntarily got on the plane. You really wanted this commission and now you're here, Could very easily just do sort of straight entertainment. I could stay in the UK and, do well-paid gigs. But I don't think I'd feel fulfilled. And that's not to sound sort of too earnest or too kind of highbrow. But I think I recognise my privilege and I think, God, we're able to bring stories to a demographic that don't necessarily listen to Question Time or Newsnight religiously. And I've only got to be there a couple of weeks. So I'll go there for a couple of weeks, give these amazing women a platform, and then a couple of million people hopefully will watch it. And then it's, oh God, fuck, I didn't know that was an issue. I didn't know that was how things were over there. And then they can form their own conclusions. That's the idea.
Is there like a moment or a person or someone's story that has stayed with you and possibly shaped you the most? I mean, there must be so many. But is there one that really changed you as a person?
The Yazidi community, for whatever reason, really do have a special place in my heart. So I don't know how much you know, but like in 2014, I didn't know any of this, but 2014, ISIS targeted them specifically. And I mean, it was like abhorrent. It was barbaric, sort of systematically raped the women and killed the men. It was, the stuff nightmares are made of. And the girls were still so... Despite being through, they've gone through all of that, they were still so soft, still really girly, dignified, really progressive, tactile, just wicked. And I love them, and I often think of them. And but there's so many. Like, I met a girl in Honduras. Years ago, Heidi, and she was in a relationship and domestic violence was a real issue and he would just treat her really appallingly. And one day she said, I've had enough. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm out. And he said, well, you can't walk out if you haven't got any legs. And he macheted both her legs off, this girl. He macheted her legs off and she survived in front of the kids. And she survived. And then like weeks later, she was sat there with an NGO and she was talking to us and she was offering us so much information because, she was sick of people not being held to account and the justice system being against. And I just thought, how do you meet how these women are? And I think, again, that's perhaps why I don't get too bogged down with the noise and the nonsense at home, because I think there's people going through this kind of thing. I just, fuck it. I think they're amazing. I think they're so cool.
What have you learned about the power of listening? Because I think that's such a special and almost rare skill, because we spend so much time talking and it's all about, let's get talking right now, which is obviously such a positive thing, but also listening is so almost more important, in my opinion, I think, anyway. What have you learned about the power of listening through doing what you've done?
I mean, interestingly, I was making a film in a prison in Iowa a couple of months ago with lifers. And I went in there and I was listening to all the women and listening to their stories and listening to what they've done. And some of the crimes, I think, was born out of circumstance. It's circumstantial, but others, I mean, just seemingly they were quite evil. And there was one woman who had slit, this is all quite morbid, but she'd slit both the kids' throats. And I sat and listened for about 15 minutes. And I thought, you know what? We didn't end up including her. We're actually interviewing her because I thought I just can't be totally objective. And she didn't end up in the film, even though the crime was so shocking. And yeah.
Someone said this to me the other day. It's not how you argue, but it's how you respond to the person you disagree with.
Or even listening, just listening. Like, you know, it's tempting, isn't it, to dig your heels in it, and it's good to stand up for what you believe in and for what you think is right. But also, you know, they might have a valid point.
I think when you can come out of those experiences and stay so mentally strong is such a special and amazing thing as well. But what do you think, and how do you think your relationship with your mental strength has changed from possibly when you were like 19, first going out into this to now? How has it changed?
People always say to me, have you had therapy? You know, do you speak to someone after all of these trips? And I haven't actually. I've been offered it a couple of times, but I haven't kind of rejected it because I'm this fierce, strong woman and I can handle this. I actually, you know, if I needed to speak to anyone, I think it's really brave when you say, actually, I need a bit of help.
Given everything you've done and all you've achieved, if you were on a Zoom call right now with the 19-year-old you,
oh my Lord, yeah,
who was just about to go out and do that documentary, your first documentary on BBC, what would you say to her?
I would say, don't place too much emphasis on what strangers are going to think of you, and just be honest about what you're seeing and what you believe and what you think. Don't be afraid to offer opinion, but listen and enjoy it.
Well, Stacey, I think you are so special.
Oh, mate,
I think you're amazing.
You. It was so nice speaking with you.
Oh my God, so nice speaking to you. You're like one of my heroines. So.
Oh, mate.